Is functioning. It's been a busy couple days for us. We, as most of you know, we had our basement flood a couple weeks ago now, about 3 weeks ago, and we're still in the process with that. And then we had new windows come in this week, and I spent the day yesterday up and down on this lift getting new second-story windows in. And boy, it's been some work. The lift came around 11:30, and I worked right through until about 7:30, and then I was back at it this morning again, and I have maybe another couple hours to do, and then she's all done, cleaned up, nice fresh windows, and what a difference. So I just want to say how happy I am that I can produce these videos, and you can mute that, please. And can you just please try to type in a comment to make sure that the comments actually work? And we're going to talk about more on ego today. And this is a really big issue for people. And I see it coming back time and time again where, and again, Kelly is a prime example of that. We get so lost in our heads, so lost in our thinking mind, that we ceased to be able to function properly in a day-to-day capacity. Our functioning becomes herky-jerky. That's the only way I can sort of term it. It doesn't flow anymore. And this is what happens when we are always coming from that thinking mind place. And we're going to discuss a few things regarding ego because this is a big one. Oh, Jackie's here. Good morning, Jackie. Nice to see you. I'm not sure what the stream delay is with YouTube, but I am seeing the comments online. And this is great because now I can respond directly instead of trying to look off into another quadrant of my screen. So we're going to talk about the ego today again, and this is a refresher on ego. And Jackie, of course, if you have any question that you're here to ask regarding any help or advice you're looking for, please feel free to just go ahead and type it in and we will address it. Absolutely. The reason we're going to talk a little bit about ego today is this came up. One of our group members had sent us a private communication that they're really struggling with a lot of the issues surrounding ego. And one of the first things we have to really understand is what is ego. And this is one of the problems with labels and descriptions and words. We get too focused on the labels. We get too focused on the descriptions. So I'm going to try to summarize what ego is in one word. And that's you or me. The concept of I, the concept of me, the concept of you, that's all ego. And it's just a word. Ego is what you are. It is the false identification with self as a part of the collective. Now, we have to be very clear. When we say false identification with self, this does not mean that self is not infinitely valuable, because it is. And as you can see on the panel I have here, not the enemy. Ego is not the enemy. And you are not the enemy. And this is one of the things that happens, and we're going to get deeper into this, okay? And I apologize if I look a little tired this morning, because I am. After all the windows yesterday and all the work outside on that lift for about 7 hours yesterday, my back is sore because I had to be kind of crouched under the eaves. And yeah, it was, I'm a little rough this morning. Again, I'm a little rough. Well, that's ego. And this is how ego works. And it is not the enemy. It is you. And it's infinitely valuable. And we're going to talk about why. That sense of self you have, that sense of individuation, is part of the collective. Ego is not individual. Ego is a humanity collective. We all carry a little piece of it in the same way we are all a shard of that creative sea of consciousness living in that sea of consciousness, of wave within the ocean of God. individuated, unique, and yet the ocean at the same time. And I think that's where people get confused. They have a hard time wrapping around their heads around the concept that you can still feel like an I and know you're not an I. That you're more than an I, that you're part of the ocean. But that individual wave is valuable. That individual wave has a gift to give to the ocean, to all the other waves. It forms part of the patterns, part of the tide, part of the rolling waves that crash on the shore. These are all analogies to what we are. And just like the ocean, those waves will recede and they'll flow in and crash and bust themselves apart and reunify themselves as they roll back out and come in and do it again. It is everything in the physical realm portrays spiritual truth, and everything in the spiritual realm portrays the truth of the relative physical realm. We are this dualistic being here in this relativistic world. We have a sense of self and we have a sense of more than self. And a lot of spiritual teachers talk about the falseness of ego, and it's true. But there's something in that negates for people. You know, my wife is guilty of doing this all the time. She'll say, my ego. And I'm like, honey, my ego and me are the same thing. It is you. It is you. Do not allow yourself to create a dualistic being within an already dualistic being. Okay? That's kind of an ego trap you have to avoid. Within your being, you have the two halves, which we would term dark and light, good and evil. And of course, again, those are labels. Don't get hung up. We're not talking about evil. We're not talking about dark. Because in reality, there is no dark. The light of consciousness pervades all space. The darkness is an illusion. And as I said last week, the reason we are thrust into that darkness, if you saw that one with the poem I wrote, we are thrust into that darkness so that we can shine. And the mirror through which the flashlight of your being reflects through is the ego, is that sense of I, that sense of me, that sense of individuation. You know, you could easily imagine a cell in your body behaving in the same way, realizing it's an individual cell, and maybe talking to another cell and saying, is there more to, like, I have a sense that we're not just a bunch of little cells, but that we're actually part of something larger. And the other cell says, nah, you're nuts. Good morning, Cindy. Nice to see you this morning. Namaste. It's another beautiful day. Again, as I said, I'm a little tired and worn out from doing windows all day yesterday and some more work to do this morning already and this afternoon, but almost have it done. And we, again, are talking more about ego. And the reason we're talking more about ego is, you know, especially if you come out of a religious background, this is the tough one for you. Again, one of these members we have in our group reminds Kelly and me of her. And the reason being is Kelly came out of a very conservative Christian background her entire life. And she still fights with it today. Those subconscious growths, as I termed them in one of my videos, stick with us, and we have to excise those growths. We have to excise that feeling of guilt, that we are not enough. You see, in the duality of ego, you have these two halves of you. You have the half that's more in line with your higher self, more in line with cosmic consciousness. It's the part of you that just wants to be good. in our definition of good, and just wants to be at peace and show compassion and love. And then we have this other side of ourselves, and that is the dark, angry child side of ourselves. That is also part of us. It's not a part to cut out. It's not an enemy. It's a part that we work on individually and collectively to heal. And the reason we need to heal it, of course, is because from the get-go, from our birth into this physical realm, we begin to damage ourselves. The damage first comes from our parents. And it's unintentional. One way or another, even if it seems intentional. It's all a state of consciousness that people are in, okay? But our parents, without even thinking about it, they teach us that love is conditional. That when you do good, you're loved. But when you don't do good, when you don't follow what everyone wants, you're not loved. Or you're loved less. Or there's something different in it. And we internalize these sort of things. And we take on... This is what is meant by in the Bible that the sins of the father are visited upon the son even until the seventh generation. This is what we're talking about. It's not about fathers and sons. It's about parents and children. You see, as I said in the video on parenting and raising conscious children, what we tend to do is try to make our children carbon copies of us. Big mistake. By their very birth, our children are in evolution. We have to look upon them with evolutionary eyes. With eyes free of our egoic sense of self and allowing them to develop their sense of self. And what happens when we're young, our sense of self is not allowed to develop in the way it would naturally. And don't get me wrong, this is all planned. We pick our parents for good reason before we come into this world. We pick the base life situation, the base temperament of our being. And when we do that, we set ourselves up for this life experience. So don't beat up on your parents for who they were and what they do. Instead, understand that you chose that. And that when you're done with it, if it's an abusive sort of relationship or one you're not comfortable in, you are free to then unchoose it and move on with your existence. This impassioned plea we had from one of our members this morning regarding the things that she is struggling with, feeling that she's bad if she's not believing what other people are believing, feeling that she's alone. These are all part of that process of the light of which we are being thrust into the illusion of darkness. Not to get worried about the darkness, but instead to realize that we are the light and to learn how to shine. This is why we're here. This is what we do. Feelings of aloneness, feelings of being bad, feelings of being lost. Of course, we know that those feelings are generated by thoughts because only emotions come from our higher being, and emotions are always based on love, compassion, and joy, and empathy, laughter. Those are all emotions. We don't think about them and then feel them through our body. They emerge through us. It is the feelings of lostness, the feelings that we're not worthy, the feelings that we're alone, that we generate. We create that. We create those feelings because we think those thoughts. And when we think those thoughts repeatedly, our bodies, our temples, the vessel in which we inhabit while we're here, begins to vibrate in a dissonant vibration. It's an alarm bell. Your body's alarm bell starts up, and it says you're thinking out of alignment. You're sinning. And of course, the Greek word for sin was you've lost focus. You've strayed off the path. So if you have to have sin, and you know, I've been thinking about this more and more and more, and when we talked about A Course in Miracles, a little light bulb came on in my head, and I've done the Course in Miracles before, and I thought to myself, you know, if you've come from a heavily westernized religious background, you don't have to really throw it all away if you don't want. You can just start redefining it for yourself. The Bible does not belong to Christianity. The Bible is a collection of 66 books. Letters, memos, all stuffed together by a bunch of old men in a room who were drinking and fighting and had all their own agendas. That does not mean there's not truth in there for you. Redefine the truth for yourself. I know Cindy says sinning, hate that word. I know, and I hate it too. But you know, the problem is again, it's just been misdefined. It's been used to fit religion. And the truth of sin, the Greek word being to stray off of the mark, has nothing to do with committing evil or going against God at all. What it had to do with was straying off the path of truth. And the truth is that you're here as a powerful spiritual being having a human experience. You cannot lose. You cannot get it wrong. You cannot fail. And, you know, I got to tell you, I have been clinically dead twice for a total of almost 20 minutes. You have nothing to worry about. This is the biggest cosmic playground and colossal joke. And the punchline comes the minute you cross over to the other side. It really does. It just does. I can't get it any clearer to people that to understand that there is nothing here we need to ever worry about. Ever. But boy, it could sure feel that way when we're in the middle of it. I totally understand that. Been there, done that. As Cindy says, yes, take what resonates, leave the rest. Choose your own definitions from it. But understand that there is nothing that you need to escape from yourself. There is no part of you that need be excised. You came into this world with purpose, and the egoic identity, that sense of me that would call itself Garhen or Jackie or Kelly or Cindy or Debbie or Frank or whatever else, that is a unique lens, specifically chosen, specifically planned, to look back upon all of creation and view itself through its own eyes, and thereby know itself. And again, I've talked about this many times, but you can imagine the absolute. When you are all things, you lack a frame of reference. You cannot look at yourself because everywhere you look, there you are. You cannot step outside of yourself to look back in on yourself. So the sea of consciousness, that creative sea of consciousness, it broke itself down into a myriad number of pieces and put them all asleep. They all agreed, we're going to forget what we are. Why? Because this makes the adventure the most real it can ever be. It's like having a dream and thinking it's real life. That's when the dreams are truly exciting, because when you think you're dying in the dream, you think you're going to die, and all of a sudden you wake up and go, oh, it was a dream, but what a ride. The same thing is happening right here, right now to you. You're dreaming this. And it's a beautiful, instructive, beneficial, fun dream if you allow it to be. Cindy says here in her writing, and this is what I like about having it online, okay, that in Mormonism, your biggest fear was separation from the celestial chosen, right? And you'll notice the one thing about religion is it all is based on fear. Fear you are not going to get to be one of the ones, one of the chosen few, one of the good, one of the ones destined to be in heaven instead of being in hell. And I just want to be clear about this. The first time I died, I hated God with a passion. As a matter of fact, when I died, I literally died with a snarl on my face coming to get him. I hated religion that much that I hated the God of religion too. And when I got to the other side, well, it wasn't a him. And all of a sudden I had lost all desire to harm anything or anybody. No judgment though. No judgment. We are here in the same way a cell is in our body. We experience this individuation, this sense of being an individual. And that is not a bad thing. But you must learn to be in this world, but no longer of it, which means even though you understand the individuality of being, at the same time, you see the forest. Yeah, it was a her. And this is one of the beautiful things about ego, and one of the reasons why it is so beneficial. I mean, your concept of me, what you really are, is an artificial intelligence. You're the memory bank. I am the memory bank of all the experiences that this vessel, this temple, has experienced. Every single thing that I've seen, touched, heard, it's all here. It's all within this energetic being. A record of every experience. I might not recognize the experiences. I might not remember the experiences, but when I go to the other side, the whole of that experience, we call it a life review. And what it really is simply an information download. The entirety of your experience literally does pass before your eyes on the other side. But it's not for judgment. It's for you to look at, for you to review, like a class you just participated in. And then you're going to turn around and you're going to take yourself a break, and then you're going to write yourself a new script, and you're going to want to come back. And if you don't want to come to this planet, you're going to come back to a different planet. And you're going to continue to live this evolution of consciousness, this evolution of all the myriad parts back in towards the whole again. The out breath and then the in breath of Brahman. I've always thought that was a beautiful allusion, similar to the ocean. The universe is breathed out. And then as we remind ourselves, as we remember ourselves, as we reunite ourselves, eventually it is all breathed back in again, to be breathed out again. Our heritage, our future is infinite. Your journey here is meant to be one of joy. Now, of course, we have a collective responsibility. And our collective responsibility of humanity, that collective ego, and as we've talked about this before, the same family squabbles that are going on with my wife's conservative Christian family and their ignorant behavior is the same ego that's putting two nations to war with each other. The same ego. The exact same ego. You see, ego isn't something that you conquer. This is one of the big problems with a lot of the spiritual teachers these days. They make it like you have to defeat ego and kill ego, and you're talking about you. Don't worry, we're all doing ourselves in slow suicide anyways. You know, this is a little bit of a segue, but I'm going to go down this road because a lot of the people here have come out of religion. And you know, one of the tenets of Christian religion has always been that, well, if you commit suicide, you're going to hell. And my first question is always, okay, so you must be talking about quick suicide then. Because is not abusing our bodies through 40 years of stressful work that literally destroys our being, is that not a form of suicide? Is not harmfully eating, repeatedly eating food that you know is not good for the body, that you know is going to cause the body harm, is that not a form of slow suicide? If you look carefully, I personally believe that we all suffer from this. And that is, deep in our subconscious, deep in our unconscious mind, there is a memory of the before the relative experience. And there's a part of you that just wants to go back there right now. It's like, I don't need to be here. I want to go. I'm going to get there one way or the other. If I don't want to jump off a cliff to do it, well, I'll eat myself to death. Slowly but surely. Or I'll smoke cigars. Or I'll drink too much. All part of the don't want this mentality that we have. And this comes really full circle, you know, it really does. And this is part of the beauty and the frustration for a lot of people. And believe me, I totally get you. I have compassion and empathy for all of you who are struggling with the concept of me. You are a powerful spiritual being. You are not your name, and yet you can be your name. It's all about what we attach to. Don't attach to it. Because the attachment in reality is false. The attachment only happens in the mind. And we talked about doing dishes. Om Tat Sat, literally that God is the doer. That we are just happenings. That the doing happens through us. Life happens through us. We provide the commentary. We're like a rather insane narrator that lives in our heads and talks to itself all day long. It narrates all the things that the universe is doing through it. I'm doing the dishes right now. I hate doing the dishes. Really? Is the ego doing the dishes? Or is the ego just talking about doing the dishes? Look closely. The intelligent field of the body, that manifestation of divine consciousness, is doing all the effort. You're just along for the ride. You're just along to make comment on it and to bitch about it and to whine about it and to love it when you're loving it. The trick is to be okay when you're feeling down. To be able to recognize when you're feeling down, to understand why you're feeling down, and then make a new conscious choice to change your thinking. You know, for years, I searched for, the right circumstances, the right environment that I'd be happy in. It's like, okay, if I can't control my outside environment, I can make myself a little holy space. And as long as that holy space is just right, and quiet enough and still enough, I'm okay right there. Again, what I'm doing is I'm projecting my happiness into some distant point in the future. And of course, that point will never be reached. It cannot come. The happiness and joy and love and satisfaction and feeling of fulfillment we seek exist within us right now. And for a lot of people, it seems really hard to get to. The title of my book, which I'm going to be working on through the summer and into the fall, and hopefully have released into the public for the beginning of the new year, is going to be entitled Waking Up is Hard to Do. And it's going to be a book all about waking up and understanding that you're actually already awake. You see, the voice in your head is being heard by someone. And that someone does not respond. That someone is you too. Because you are not this singular being. You have a magnificent, multi-level characteristic about you. Dualistic only covers the ego. But you are this multifaceted, multi-dimensional, multi-talented, multi-lovable being. And that which hears the voice of your ego is you, too. And you'll notice it does not speak. It doesn't need to speak. And it doesn't need to speak because it realizes, it knows that it's here to observe and to enjoy. And that's what it does. You'll notice, regardless of how much whining is going on in the interior, that which hears that whining makes no comment. It's not concerned. Doesn't offer sympathies or condolences. And if you can become aware of the awareness that is listening within you, you're already on the path to moving past the dysfunctional side of yourself. And what you're really doing is you're going to heal it. You're going to remember it, reunite it, to make it whole again. And it all comes down to this. In every moment and of every day, you have the choice whether to create, C-R-E-A-T-E, or to react, R-E-A-C-T. Create, react. Same letters. One of them comes out of the unconscious sense of self, out of the dualistic side, that side of us that we would term dark, that needs to be healed. The other part of ourselves, of course, that higher aspect of ourselves, that comes out of the lighter side of ourselves, that which is more in alignment with divine truth and with the cosmic consciousness, that sea of consciousness. So what we want to do is we want to simply become more and more aware of that voice, of what's going on in our heads, and then becoming more and more conscious in our attempts to change the thought processes. Jackie, thank you. It was wonderful seeing you today. And any questions, any advice we can help with, or anything you'd like to see for video, please offer it up and we will make it happen. That ego is not the enemy, and this is where we have to be crystal clear. That ego is you. That sense of me that you have right now sitting there watching this video is your ego. It is the same, one and the same thing, but it is not all you are. And I think this is where people get confused. The ego is not to be destroyed. It is not the enemy, and it is not all that you are, and yet it is you. It is a part of the multifaceted being that you are. You know, you've often heard people say, well, we're holistic beings. You know, spirit, mind, and matter. And this is, you know, kind of in the right direction towards the truth. It's all actually spirit. But we have different vibratory levels of energy. And those are manifest in our body as well. As above, so below. That is also manifest in our sense of being, in our mental state. We have different facets, different levels of our being. It is all part of one and the same being, and yet we have the ability within ourselves to look upon that voice in our head and make choices. Take actions with our thoughts, take actions in what we choose for ourselves, and what it's going to take, and I'm going to say this specifically to the member of our group who had asked this question and who's suffering a bit, feeling alone and lost. You have had a lifetime of conditioning in the wrong direction. And wrong is the wrong word, because it's not wrong. It's all been to help wake you up. It's all been to help you raise your consciousness, to come to the next level of capability, the next level of being that you have within you. Your universe is getting ready to expand on you, and it is when times seem the darkest. Thanks, Jackie. When times seem the darkest, you have to know that it blows my mind, because every time it's ever happened to me, okay, every time I have been lost in the dark, that's when the light of your being shines the most. It really does. And I'm sorry, it always breaks me up, and the reason it breaks me up is because I don't experience the darkness anymore. To even contemplate the darkness reminds me of the events that woke me up, and I am instantly filled with that vibration of love and compassion that threatens to tear my physical being right away from me. I keep telling my wife, one of these days, I'm just going to transcend the body completely, and I'm going to be like a permanent nightlight. Middle of the night, you need to use the bathroom, just wake me up. I'll walk you to the bathroom. I'll just glow. I won't need the physical body anymore. As a matter of fact, I'm kind of wondering why I carry it around half the time as it is. The bottom line is this. In our deepest, darkest trials, the light is the brightest. And what I want you to do is lift your head up. It's very easy when we're walking around in the dark to look around on the ground. I mean, we don't want to stumble. We don't want to fall. So it makes sense. When we feel in the dark, we lower our head. We're looking down. We often look down on ourselves. Or we feel that creation is looking down on us at the same time. There's an issue with that, though. And of course, the issue is that the light that you are isn't seen when you're looking down. The light that you are is reflected in everyone else. This is the important part of the message, okay? And again, it's difficult to talk about because it threatens to send me into a transcendental state even talking about it anymore. But our light is often invisible to ourselves. And there's a good reason for that. You can imagine, if you must buy the story, and I don't buy the story, I buy the story as an allegory, the allegory of the most beautiful, magnificent angel of all, Lucifer. Okay? And the problem with Lucifer to me represents the dark side of our ego. And the problem with Lucifer was everyone could see him shine, including himself. He could see his own light, and he got arrogant about the light he saw. And that was his downfall. That's my feeling of the allegory of the most beautiful angel of all, Lucifer. Our dark selves, that side of ourself that needs to be healed and brought into the light. Our light, as Cindy says, is seen through others. It's in what we do in the darkness that matters most. And yes, it can feel like we're the only one there because it's dark. It's hard to see. But there are a lot of people in that darkness with us. And when we look up, when we take our eyes off the ground in the dark, and we look around and we see the shadowy figures around us, it is our light that illuminates them. And their light, which illuminates us. All this talk about light. and every time I talk too deeply about these things, of course it brings back every Satori experience, my 2 near-death experiences, and all those vibrations and states of being become totally re-manifest in a being that, quite frankly, is not designed to handle that much pressure. And as I say, it has to leak out somewhere. And for me, it usually leaks out through the eyes, which is a good thing. Don't look at me that way. Kelly's giving me a funny grin. She leaks out of a lot of places. So, where do we come to this? Well, this is what we come to, okay? It is very easy to get caught up in all our past conditioning. And, for most people, you've got at least 25, 30, 40 years of that conditioning. And when you wake up, you go, oh, great, everything's different. That's wonderful. But there is a subconscious part of you that is still deeply entrenched in all that old conditioning, that still buys into that old conditioning even while your conscious mind is saying, nope, I don't believe that anymore. And it is this unconscious conditioning that we have to be most on guard for, because it will catch us off guard if we are not staying aware. And as Buddha says, meditation is bitter at the beginning, but sweet honey in the end. Whereas a life without meditation may seem like sweet honey, but ends up becoming quite bitter. That lifetime of conditioning, whether it's 10 years, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, 60 years, cannot be broken overnight. You can see through it overnight. The veil can be ripped and rent asunder, and you can see into the temple of your being for the first time ever. And then that veil will fall back again. And there's a reason it must. And the reason is if you lived in a state of constant enlightenment, you'd be bored out of your tree. As a being, you crave experience. You love change because you understand that life is change, that nothing is static. You know this in the core of you, and you want it. You relish in it. You revel in the change. How do you get by 40 years in a day or a week or a month? Be patient with yourself. Do not get into an argument with yourself or frustrated with yourself about where you are at. Do not separate my ego and me into an enemy within you and then you. You know, and I am partially responsible for this, okay? Because, you know, when I talk about ego as that insane roommate in your head, it is still part and parcel of the whole that you are. Not something to destroy, not something to push away, not something to worry about. I'm going to say this. If you are struggling with a sense of being lost or feeling alone in this world, of being not good enough or being not right, or feeling like you don't even want to live anymore when you find yourself separated from those you think you need to rely on, I want you to give yourself an entire month, like 1 month of focused meditation. Do the course, do the Awakening course fully. Contact me via Messenger. I'll do some live video feeds with you. We'll work through the Awakening course. It's 4 pages long, and if you repeat that for a month without fail, if you give it the same diligence that you have been unconsciously training yourself with all of this time, you can start changing that direction and you can start seeing progress. You know, the question is to always ask, what am I supposed to see? Not why is this happening to me? Not how come? Not what did I do wrong? But instead, what am I supposed to see in this? Then every obstacle becomes an opportunity for growth. And yes, it will be bitter in the beginning. It's like trying to play a musical instrument. And, you know, I shut my wife down one night on this. We were lying in bed and she was talking to me about the exact same thing. About why is it so hard to deal with this egoic sense of self? Why is it so hard to deal with this concept of I? Why is it so hard to change what I think? And I said to her, I said, what happens when you play piano? And she says, oh, piano is easy. I just sit down, I'm not even in my head, and I just play. And I said, really? But how long did it take you? How much diligent, focused attention and practice did it take for you to get to that point? And a light bulb came on, and my wife went, oh, got me again. Give some time, give some attention, give some awareness to working on your state of being. You've had a lifetime of conditioning. It will not be broke overnight. I think we're going to wrap it up about here today. At the 1 o'clock, we are going to be talking some more about prayers and healing and about the outcomes of our lives and what happens when others send good intentions to us. And that will be on the Awaken the World YouTube channel, and I will post a link for that before noon on the Facebook page as well. Okay? And I do invite you to subscribe to both channels if you're not a member. We're looking to get past the 100 subscriber mark at some point so that we can start incorporating a YouTube channel partnership and growing the YouTube channel even more. It's not about revenue. We do this from our own pockets. And we do it because we truly believe it is time for the world to wake up. It is time for us as a species to awaken. We have the opportunity again. And we all have the choice, as we all do every day. And maybe that's what it comes down to, you know. Ultimately, you have to choose in every moment, in every thought, choose the higher thought. Choose that which you know you are. Even if you don't think you are right now, choose that which you know you are. Take it on faith. Stick with it for 30 days and you will begin to see your life change. And what's really changing are your perceptions about your life. Much love and namaste to you all. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope this has been informative. And again, any questions, comments that you would like answers to or advice, let us know. Always here to serve. Namaste and have a wonderful Sunday.